Welcome to this sacred gathering, where heavenly melodies uplift our spirits and draw us closer to the divine. The same energy they attempted to use to destroy you has boomeranged back so hard that they now need your healing power to survive what they sent your way. Chosen one, they are currently standing around in complete shock, saying, "This person has to be protected by a higher power because they literally sacrificed humans trying to take you down and nothing worked." They realize then that you are not only protected, but that you are the weapon that God sent to destroy their entire organization. It's astounding how much they've tried to harm you. This is not a small-scale operation involving a few envious people. Rather, it is a concerted global endeavor comprising several organizations, hidden societies, and evil covens who have been cooperating to stop you. When members of your inner circle began acting suspiciously, you learned about their infiltration network. Strange questions about your habits, spiritual practices, and vulnerabilities started to come from those you trusted. Lovers, you allowed yourself to be pushed in the direction of destructive habits. Even the family members you believed would always support you started to undermine your self-esteem and thwart your achievements. They promised these folks things, promised rewards, and depicted money and power if they would only work against you. They believed they could make weapons out of your own people. They didn't anticipate your capacity to spot dishonesty, your innate talent for sensing when someone's energy had changed, or your extraordinary intuition that warned you of treachery before it was completely realized. It was out of spiritual understanding, not cruelty, that you started to cut these compromised people out of your life. You realized that their presence was allowing your opponents access to your personal information, eroding your natural defenses, and opening the door for an attack. Your choice to cut off contact with these individuals disrupted their main source of intelligence. They have visited several practitioners all throughout the world: African shamans, European occultists, Asian mystics, and practitioners from all over the world were brought in when their local witch doctors were unable to treat you. They have tried everything and have spent countless dollars looking for someone who has the strength to get past your defenses. Through dreams, intuitive flashes, or spiritual intelligence that comes to you from sources they are unable to recognize or block, you somehow became aware of these consultations. Through spiritual means, you became able to trace their actions across continents, began to sense when new practitioners joined their efforts, and began to recognize the energy signatures of various magical traditions being employed against you. During this procedure, you felt isolated. You noticed that although others appeared to have large followings of admirers, you were standing alone. You questioned why you were unable to sustain the same sorts of connections that others had, why you frequently found yourself on a lonely path, and why people appeared to slip away from you. You realized that your seclusion was a form of divine protection. Every individual who left your life, every failed relationship, and every social group that shunned you were all planned by a higher power to protect you from the poison they were attempting to spread across your network. If you feel the divine love, now is the time to share. Click the Super Thank You button on YouTube to contribute $50 or more and help us spread God's blessings. What you do is being watched and serves as a seed, and in the future it will come back to you a millionfold. You discovered the deep serenity that comes with not having to continuously watch out for betrayal from those close to you, how to accept the loneliness, and how to find courage in standing alone. You developed a strong spiritual connection that reinforced your direct interaction with the divine source, making your alone time sacred. In the spiritual world, you were never truly alone, even when it seemed like you were standing alone in the physical world. You have an army, ancestors who have been on this journey before you, archangels sent to guard you, nature spirits that answer your call, and most essential, an unbreakable, unblockable link to the Creator. You began to see this spiritual army in your dreams, sense their presence when you meditated, and hear their advice when you needed it most. Your adversaries may have thought you were alone, but in reality, you were surrounded by the strongest defenses in the world. They sensed loneliness when they looked at you with their physical eyes, but they were unable to perceive this spiritual army. Because they couldn't see the supernatural forces standing with you, they saw what they perceived as vulnerability and assumed they could overpower you with sheer numbers. You started addressing this unseen army, requesting their help, and working with them in ways that left your opponents absolutely perplexed. Your prayers turned into meetings with divine entities to discuss strategies. They were given intelligence briefings from spiritual sources they couldn't access because of your meditation. Seeing their strikes make you stronger has been the most perplexing thing for them to observe. You gain power with each hex they transmit. Your spiritual authority rises with each curse they throw. They absorb, transform, and add to your arsenal every bit of evil magic they send your way. You become incredibly adept at consuming negative energy in the form of food. Your love was fueled by their enmity. In disguise, their curses turned into benefits. In some way, their attempts to deplete your energy gave you greater power than you had before. In those competitive eating contests, you not only withstand their attacks but also gobble them up. You keep begging for more, even after you've taken everything they give you. They are witnessing it in real time. What doesn't kill you actually makes you stronger. As each attack showed you more of your own potential, you came to appreciate them. You discovered a new method to turn darkness into light with each curse. You learned something about your own spiritual chemistry from each hex. Each concerted attack revealed another facet of your divine shield. The most startling thing you discovered is that the magic they are attempting to use against you was first created by your ancestors. Whatever spiritual weapons they believe give them an advantage, whatever ancient secrets they believe they possess, or whatever dark techniques they have been practicing, your bloodline invented them. You began seeing images of spiritual practices that were entirely unfamiliar to your conscious thinking, but felt familiar, and you began to dream about ancestors you had never heard of. Information that had lain dormant for generations started to activate in your DNA, waiting for the ideal time to come to life. In addition to guarding you, your forebears are the domain's rulers. They are not happy to see their own spiritual practices being applied against their descendants. Instead of being a random spiritual force, the volcanic energy that explodes when they assault you is generational power that has been accumulating for generations, waiting for the appropriate time to manifest through you. During meditation, you started to access genetic memories, bringing decades of spiritual combat experiences straight into your mind. Your forefathers' defense mechanisms against evil magic began to function automatically. You discovered that you were defending against attacks using tactics you had never studied, but somehow understood completely. You began to feel the sun in a different way. Sunlight exposure started to activate dormant DNA instructions. You sensed that spiritual technology that your ancestors had created over many years were coming online. Ancestral memory activation was triggered by solar energy. Working with herbs activated cellular memories of your ancestors' use of plants for power and defense, you found. Before your head realized why, your hands knew which combinations to utilize. You were led by your intuition to particular plants that surrounded your dwelling area with energetic shields. Another activation trigger was sound healing. Ancestral memories of your lineage's use of vibration in spiritual battle were evoked by specific frequencies. You discovered that you were humming unfamiliar tunes, producing sound patterns that automatically countered attacks. You started to see the actual structure of what you were up against as their strikes grew more intense and ultimately failed. This was a well-functioning network with distinct hierarchies, established procedures, and decades of operational experience, not the haphazard malice of disjointed individuals. You were aware of the trends in their attacks and the many functions that individuals performed inside their group. A primary couple is frequently present at the center. They could be your ex and their new partner, family members, or total strangers who turned you into their project. Like generals in charge of an army, these leaders give tasks and oversee resources to coordinate the larger endeavor. You discovered how to monitor their communication styles, recognize when they were organizing significant operations, and spot potential new recruits before they might turn on you. Their physical network got less advanced than yours in terms of spiritual intelligence. Brother and sister, everything done in faith is returned in God's abundance. You can donate $100 using the Super Thank You button and be part of this divine call. If your roots are connected to Him, your fruit will be blessed. You found that their generational conditioning was challenged by your very existence. Everything they had been taught about the nature of power in this world was in direct opposition to your prosperity, spiritual authority, and heavenly protection. You were evidence that their entire perspective was incorrect. Others are new coalitions, clandestine groups that have gathered because of you. They put aside old rivalries and pooled resources as a result of your rise. Formerly, rival groups came together with the same objective of stopping you. You came to see that your presence had sparked previously unheard of collaboration among the dark forces, which had really benefited you. Additionally, by banding together against you, they had concentrated their energies into a single target that your security could more effectively deal with than if they had stayed dispersed and autonomous. Your own skills started to become more apparent as the strikes kept failing. Before they carried out their intentions, you began to notice them. Dreams started revealing their next movements to you. Flashes of intuition alerted you to danger before it materialized. Every tactic they came up with was 10 steps ahead of you. You came to fully trust these user-friendly downloads. You obeyed without hesitation when your inner guidance instructed you to stay away from particular locations, alter your daily schedule, or keep your distance from particular individuals. You continuously outperformed their operations because you followed your spiritual guidance. Your statements started to have extraordinary force. Things you said out of irritation or resolve began to come to pass. Your desperate prayers were answered so swiftly that even you were taken aback. Your blessings to others had an instant impact. Even unintentionally, curses you uttered over your adversaries started to come true with startling accuracy. Realizing that your voice had transformed into a creative force in the physical world, you learnt to use your words more carefully. Every resolute statement you made started to change the world around you. Your inane remarks began to materialize into real things. Your impulses to defend other people started to function at superhuman levels. When someone in your group is being attacked, you can tell. When someone you care about is the target of negative energy, you can sense it. If something is happening hundreds of kilometers away, you can still make a spiritual intervention. You began to receive inquiries from others who were being attacked spiritually. Through secret networks, word got out that you had a unique talent for breaking curses, neutralizing bad magic, and protecting people who couldn't defend themselves. You started to have a reputation for being able to deal with supernatural threats. Your power to just speak things into existence is the most impressive advancement. Through your speech, mountain-moving faith started to operate. When you make a resolute declaration, it starts to materialize. Even your adversaries were forced to acknowledge your spiritual authority. You discovered that there is a great deal of responsibility associated with this creative capacity. Knowing what to say, when to say it, and how to match your statements with divine intent rather than your own desires are all necessary for having the ability to speak things into reality. They are now receiving compound interest in return for the death spells they have been sending your way. Everything that they intended to destroy you is now returning to haunt them. They are now experiencing curses in their own lives as a result of the energy they expended on cursing you. As you watched, they started going through the same things they had attempted to do to you. Problems with health suddenly surfaced. Relationships ended for no apparent reason. Repeated financial catastrophes occurred. Legal issues arose from unexpected sources. The weight of their own retaliated hatred started to weaken their mental stability. You came to understand that your spiritual defense not only deters attacks, but also more powerfully sends them back to their origins. Each curse they said was returned as several curses. They got a compound hex back for each hex they cast. All of the bad energy they threw at you bounced back with interest. The fact that they are powerless to stop this reversal is its most tragic feature. By contacting more powerful practitioners, investing vast sums of money in spiritual purification, and engaging in complex rituals to reroute the energy, they attempt every method they are aware of to terminate the cycle, only to find that the energy has taken on a life of its own. The spiritual response is literally making some of them ill. Their own systems are now being poisoned by the negative energy they have been producing for months or years. They require healing, which leads to a horrible irony. They have isolated themselves from the same person whose energy could cure them through their attacks. It was out of spiritual understanding, not retaliation, that you decided not to offer healing to those who had harmed you. You realized that treating them would obstruct the divine justice process, which needed to be allowed to complete itself. You had to strike a balance between showing kindness and letting things happen. You found that your disassociation from their mayhem actually hastened their outcomes. You took away the source of energy they were utilizing to keep up their attacks by declining to participate in their drama. Your apathy turned into a more potent kind of spiritual combat than any outright conflict. They started to realize the truth of who they were, and with that realization comes heartbreaking remorse. They were unaware that they were battling an angel from Earth. They were unaware that they were confronting someone who was under the Creator's direct protection. They were unaware that they were opposing heaven itself. Their increasing consciousness was palpable in the spiritual world. Their energy signatures shifted from terrified doubt to aggressive confidence. As terror gripped their leadership, their attacks grew increasingly frantic and ill-prepared. The regret stems from the cosmic scope of their error, not merely from failed tactics. They have set themselves up as adversaries of someone God sent to this world with a specific mission. They have declared war on a person who has the full support of the spiritual leadership. They have decided to stand against someone whose protection is unassailable and unchangeable. Some of them started having paranormal experiences that made it clear to them that you had their spiritual support. Warning-filled dreams, visions of the repercussions they would face, direct interventions from spiritual beings telling them to stop attacking, and paranormal activity in their homes that they identified as related to their acts against you. You discovered that an intelligence network that penetrates their dreams, subconscious thoughts, and private areas is part of your safety. The same spiritual forces that were keeping you safe were also communicating with your assailants directly, providing them with chances to change their ways and leave the battle. As they became aware of the magnitude of the situation, those in positions of authority inside their organization started to back down. Initially, supporting the attacks, the leaders began to distance themselves from the actions. As their personal lives were impacted by the backlash, financial donors started to stop contributing. You saw entire networks fall apart as people frantically tried to distance themselves from the failed attempt to harm you. Decades-old organizations started to fall apart as members left to avoid the repercussions of institutional resistance to your holy mission. They turned to physical realm strategies after spiritual attacks failed. Your personal documents have been the subject of odd activity, such as mail going missing, official letters being intercepted, and attempts to obtain your financial information through formal means. You were more conscious of these physical dangers and learned how to safeguard your most valuable papers. Keep an eye on your credit reports, follow the arrival of your mail, and safeguard your personal data with the same vigilance you used for spiritual security. In response, you built a fortress around your identity information by setting up monitoring services that would notify you of unauthorized access attempts, establishing direct contacts with financial institutions, and generating several backup systems for crucial documents. Some tried poisoning, placing chemicals in your food or drink to make you vulnerable so they could take advantage of you spiritually. By following your instincts about what was safe to eat, who was safe to accept food from, and which eateries and food sources were compromised, you gained superhuman judgment regarding food safety. You discovered that blessing all food and beverages before consuming them serves as both a practical safeguard against physical contamination and a spiritual activity. By neutralizing dangerous poisons before they could have an impact on your body, your prayers over meals served as barriers against poisoning attempts. You came to see that when spiritual repercussions are insufficient, divine justice also entails enlisting the help of human institutions. The same divine powers that were keeping you safe were also pointing earthly authorities in the direction of the proof they required to bring charges against your assailants. Cases in which their sworn lies were revealed by divine revelation started to surface. Judges gained knowledge that enabled them to spot dishonesty. Lawyers discovered evidence they had not sought. The court procedures proceeded with a remarkable level of efficiency. You discovered that when heaven is engaged, truth has its own momentum in court systems. Lies fall apart effortlessly. False testimony comes to light on its own. Fraudulent documents show their own flaws, and justice advances with divine help. If you want to witness God's miracles, act now. Contribute $100 or more through Super Thank You on YouTube. Your offering is like a seed that comes back to you when planted. Let His light illuminate your steps. Every donation is an echo in His plan. Even you were astonished by the severity of the physical illnesses that your attackers developed as a result of the spiritual backlash. People who sent death energy your way for months or years started having serious health problems for which there was no known cure. As their physical bodies started to deteriorate under the weight of returned bad energy, you could sense their declining health through your spiritual awareness, sensing their energy signatures become weaker, more disorganized, and more desperate. Ironically, some people actually depend on your healing energy to survive, and they're just now realizing that the person whose energy may heal them is the same person they've been attempting to eradicate. You realize that tampering with divine justice would be an affront to the spiritual rules that were defending you. Therefore, you decided not to offer healing to those who had harmed you. You had to save your healing powers for people who deserved to be restored, not for people who had earned punishment. Like wildfire, awareness of your actual spiritual standing spread throughout the communities, both light and dark. Word spread through underground networks that the highest spiritual powers available to anyone working in this dimension actually supported you, not merely provided protection. Spiritual practitioners you had never met started to acknowledge you. They were the ones who had seen your spiritual authority in dreams and visions rather than in person, and they knew your energy signature from the astral dimension. Angels instantly appear in response to your calls. Even skeptics are persuaded that supernatural forces are actively controlling your life predicament when divine intervention occurs on a frequent basis and at such a perfect moment. By coordinating protection for others, making specific requests, and focusing spiritual resources on issues that require heavenly attention, you learn to work consciously with your angelic support team. Your intercession turned into operational briefings with divine powers. Your opponents started to worry that you would publicly uncover decades of illicit conduct, abuse trends, and organized harassment that they had concealed by intimidation and spiritual manipulation. Through your spiritual awareness, you were able to experience their panic as they realized that someone with your level of authority and protection might expose their activities without worrying about reprisals. Their protection has always rested on their victims being too scared or helpless to complain. They understood that if you choose to talk publicly about your experiences, everything that they had kept hidden for generations, family secrets, criminal activity concealed under spiritual practices, and abuse patterns they had preserved through religious manipulation, could be revealed. They were able to sense the weakness they had attempted to instill in you because you wielded this power of exposure over their heads like a sword. The fear they had tried to instill in your life was now a part of their everyday existence. As judicial proceedings revealed the magnitude of their criminal behavior, the nature of their attacks, and the size of their organization, court cases started to disclose their coordinated actions. Public records started recording what they believed would always be kept secret. You saw how their attempt to use legal manipulation to ruin you ended up exposing their own wrongdoing. As repercussions grew and loyalty broke down under duress, members of their own organization started betraying one another. In order to evade more serious charges, lower-level members began to cooperate with police. In order to safeguard their own interests, financial backers separated themselves. When the liability became too high, leaders left their following. You saw their network disintegrate as organizational allegiance gave way to self-preservation. When they were held accountable for their conduct, the unity they had preserved while attacking you disintegrated. As they became aware of the severity of the situation, the spiritual leaders who had been assisting them started to turn sides. In an effort to align themselves with divine justice, some publicly apologized, others presented proof against former allies, and others even tried to alert you to current conspiracies. You developed the ability to distinguish between sincere remorse and calculated positioning, to accept help from people who had actually changed while being wary of those who were only attempting to lessen their own repercussions. You became aware that the balance between light and dark spiritual communities had shifted globally as a result of your victory. Your effective defiance of their well-planned assault had both weakened the oppressive networks and motivated other targeted individuals. Spiritual communities came to understand that you weren't just a random person with exceptional protection. Rather, you were brought here for a special divine purpose that went beyond your own success or survival. As you saw that the attacks you had escaped were really attempts to keep you from fulfilling your divinely mandated job, you started to get revelation regarding your genuine purpose. Your opponents were aware of your objective before you were, and they had banded together to prevent you from achieving it. You are here on purpose, supported by the complete authority of heaven and organized by spiritual hierarchy. All of your life's experiences, even the concerted resistance you encountered, had been planned to set you up for the task you came here to complete. Look, I need a minute, even though I know you came here for your chosen one video. I might never be able to forgive myself if I don't say this into the field right away. Some of us were abused, banished, and plagued by facts that no one else could accept because we were born into fire. The fact that we were selected to pass through the veil and return with the map within does not imply that we are cursed. Every week, the Obsidian Inner Order meets in person via Zoom. A millionaire CFO who gave up everything to become a psychic in Noosa, a spiritual healer who was once imprisoned within a satanic cult, a seer, a sage, a soul who left Mormonism and found the Gnosis, a former military drone operator who now uses his mind as the remote control. I mean it when I say real people. This is only a glimpse of the people who sacrificed everything when their calling struck. Every call is recorded so that you may hit play and experience the pitch once again when you're by yourself, digging through the muck of your own awakening. Perhaps this is for you, but it's not for everyone. Do you think you'll fit in with us? Click the link in the description to join the Obsidian Inner Order. We sincerely appreciate your support of the broadcast. Without you, we could not have done it. Even your adversaries were unable to dispute the evidence of divine favor that you had survived and defeated these well-planned attacks. You showed supernatural support that goes beyond human-level defense by not only surviving, but also becoming stronger as a result of their resistance. You realized that your triumph was intended to demonstrate to other selected individuals going through comparable difficulties that divine protection is unwavering. Other chosen ones start to recognize you as someone who has successfully completed the initiation process when you follow your genuine calling without compromising. By demonstrating that survival and success were achievable, your triumph over organized dark opposition served as motivation for those who faced like difficulties. You took on the duty of setting an example for others, realizing that sharing your experience was necessary to assist other targeted individuals in realizing their own spiritual protection and authority. You were able to use the spiritual influence you had gained during this difficult time to assist others who were being attacked in a similar way. Your story served as a guide for other selected individuals, learning how to conduct concerted spiritual combat. You started educating people on how to spot coordinated spiritual assaults, how to get divine protection, how to channel bad energy into good, and how to stay faithful in the face of persecution. Your experience served as evidence of the effectiveness of divine protection and the pointlessness of opposing those who are called to fulfill their purpose. You became a living example of how no force on earth can defeat someone who has the support of heaven. You accepted your position as proof that the era of unquestioned dark spiritual authority was coming to an end, and that those who were selected were becoming stronger and more secure enough to take on systems that had been in place for millennia without any resistance. You now possess unquestionable spiritual authority that your previous adversary cannot contest or undercut. The most advanced attacks available to dark spiritual communities have tried to breach the defenses protecting you, but they have always failed. Now, you act with total faith in your spiritual support, knowing that the same powers that helped you overcome concerted worldwide opposition will be just as successful in overcoming any obstacles in the road. Your ongoing spiritual battle has honed your intuition to unnaturally high levels of precision and dependability. You can now automatically and subconsciously neutralize negative energy, detect threats before they materialize, and perceive attacks before they are unleashed. You have established what are essentially spiritual early warning systems that warn you of danger in several areas of your life: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, all of which register in your consciousness before they have a chance to impact your situation. By aligning your worldly acts with spiritual methods and allowing divine wisdom to guide your decisions while preserving your unique will and individuality, you have learnt to function as a conscious partner with celestial forces. Your authority has been established, your goal is now evident, and you are completely protected. You have demonstrated that human resistance, no matter how well planned, well funded, or resolute, cannot thwart divine calling. The trial period and testing phase are done. You realize that in order to build the spiritual strength needed for the task you came here to do, this initiation procedure was essential. The attacks that appeared to be intended to destroy you were actually exercises that helped you become ready for more difficult tasks in the future. The same individuals who assaulted you in the past are now instances of what occurs when someone tries to stop heaven's plan. Their destiny serves as a warning to anyone who might think about launching similar attacks through you, a manifestation of divine justice that safeguards all those who are chosen.